Alright, good afternoon, probably good evening to some. My name is Siti. I am from Malaysia, currently the Vice President of Institution of Engineers Malaysia, the former Director of Engineering Accreditation Department, Board of Engineers Malaysia. So I'm going to share this afternoon, probably in about 20 minutes that I have here, is on quality assurance in engineering education. I am going to look into more on the operations side, looking at the TLA, Teaching Learning Assessment, and SDG mapping. So basically, I will present this in basically 3 outcomes. So the first one is to justify the TLA activities to fulfill the GAPC version 4, 2021. And then to be able to evaluate the PO attainment with evidences of gap analysis, hopefully, and also to conduct effective CQI to address the SDGs. This is what Malaysia went through. So we started the OBE planting cycle in the year of 2000, basically in the year of 1999, when we wanted to become the provisional member of IEA. So thereafter, we've gone through the process. We've got our full signatory, and we have already received our first review for our Washington Accord and our second review for our Washington Accord last year. So at the end of this year, we're going to receive the first review for our Sydney Accord and Dublin Accord. For the info of all of our participants here, Board of Engineers is the full signatory to the Washington Accord, Sydney Accord and Dublin Accord, whereas IEM is the signatory to the agreements. So we are now looking into the roadmap of the GAPC version 4 2021. And I'm glad to share with you that we have actually come up with our standard, the revised standard, that is actually fulfilling the expectation of the GAPC version 4 2021. And it was launched yesterday, and we are going to have an effective curriculum review. All of the IHL, Institution of Higher Learning, expected to come up with the review and the implementation of the Standard 2024, which is using the GAPC version 4 by the 1st of January 2025. So this is the way that we have handled our standards. So as already mentioned, we started way back in 1999. It was more of the OBE awareness at that time. So now we have come up to the outcome evidence, and we are now in the acculturation state. The acculturation state began in the year 2020, where we also tried to champion the virtual accreditation to all of the IHL that we need to conduct their review. So basically, I think many of our speakers have already shared what are the way forward in terms of the GAPC and how we are now embracing the 11 graduate attributes together with the additional knowledge profile, which is the 9th WK, and how we are also looking into it is being mapped to the complex problem solving, the attributes of the complex engineering activities. And what we have done in Malaysia is to adopt and adapt the GAPC version 4 2021. So we went about by having a stakeholder sharing session at the end of last year. So we have actually been fortunate to be able to get Prof to explain to all of our stakeholders the importance of the GAPC and how it has actually made the revision to become version 4. So then what we did was we looked back into the standard that we had earlier on, which was the year 2020, which was based on the version 3 GAPC. And we have come up with some activities for us to actually ensure that all of our IHL is within the alignment of what we are expecting in our standard 2024, which was launched yesterday. So basically now it is still a hot cake, and there are many messages that is coming out from our stakeholders, and we also allow for our panels, review panels, our IHLs to actually give us feedback and probably address some of the issues that they think may impact their accreditation process. So in standard, EAC is Engineering Accreditation Council, which actually would review the WA programs, whereas the ETAC is the Engineering Technology Accreditation Council, who will actually accredit the Sydney Accord and the Dublin Accord programs. So nevertheless, the criterion is about the same, except probably we have some demarcation in terms of what are the expectations in terms of the credit hours and also the practice-oriented component. So in all, we try to ensure that all of our criterion are fully being addressed to fulfill the 17 SDGs, and I have already come up with a standardized format so that it is easy for our stakeholders to check through in terms of whether they are fulfilling the requirement or not. So basically, these are the way forward. We have known that WK would now have an addition of WK9, which is on the ethics and attitude. And of course, there are small change in terms of the sustainability issues in engineering problem solving. And we know that engineering activities attributes remain about the same, whereas of course, we look into the graduate attributes of the program outcomes, as what we call it in Malaysia. And we have tried to establish some mapping so that it would actually ease our IHL in trying to address all of these issues so that we can fulfill the JAPC version 4 2021. So alongside, I've already written up for Sydney Accord and also for the Dublin Accord. Right? So this is taken directly from the IEA Agreements Organization website. So then you will see that I've already highlighted those in red to really looking directly into how it is being addressing the 17 SDGs. And these are the way forward that we will try to establish with our IHL. These are the graduate attributes that must not miss any of these issues on the sustainability when they are trying to do their mapping or when they are trying to review their curriculum so that it can fulfill the particular requirement of the JAPC version 4. So the addition of the WKs and also the, especially I think Dr. Rao had already simplified the engineer and the world and how it is actually being is being addressed in the WA, the SA, and also the DA graduate attributes. So you would see that those highlighted here are those which is not in the graduate attributes from version 3. Similarly, when we look at the lifelong learning, we have the addition of WK8, and for the Sydney Accord, there will be an addition of SK8. So all of these knowledge profile must be properly mapped to our TLA. So along with it, I have made some comparison between what we had in the version 2013 to the version 2021, and all the details are shown in here, and I've already made that particular comparison. And I think probably I want to put a more focus on WK5, because in WK5 it do mention about environmental impacts, whole life cost, net zero carbon, and looking into engineering design and operations. So usually when we were looking at WK5, we normally would just consider once we have already made the design, we normally tend to omit the operation part. But with the addition of what we have now under the JAPC version 4, operations is already part and parcel of the WK5. So similarly, when you look at WK7, prior to this it was just comprehension. It's just lecturers or students would just need to look into whether the students are able to comprehend in terms of assessment. But now, when we are looking at JAPC version 4, the students are supposedly to acquire the knowledge, and this knowledge is talking about the sustainable development. And looking into WK8, you're also looking into the awareness of the considers that we are looking into the awareness of the power of critical thinking and creative approaches, as what had been mentioned by Dr. Rao and some other speakers as well, even Prof. Tariq. And WK9 is actually the one that we are looking at, which will now be embedded in some of our graduate attributes. So alongside with here, you will see that I am also looking into the components of the complex engineering problem. So if you look into the complex engineering problem, I would pay more attention to the range of conflicting requirements because it talks about sustainability. No doubt that the rest of the other characteristics of complex engineering problem is also looking at the SDG, but most importantly, the WP2. Right? When you talk about the complex engineering activities, I don't really look into more of a detail in terms of the JAPC, for the JAPC version 4 in terms of the sustainability, even though we see there are innovative solutions for conscious purpose and for optimal resolution of interactions between wide-ranging and conflicting requirement is also included. So these are those that can be embedded, but for the serious mapping, I would just look into the way that I would address the PO trace. So what we call here is as the PO trace, and I'm looking into using the culminating forces as part and how to ensure the PO attainment is being evident when we are doing our review or our accreditation exercise. So the way that I've already demarked the PO trace, so PO2, PO3 and PO6 will have a direct mapping to our 17 SDGs, whereas PO1, PO4, PO5, PO7, PO8, PO10 and PO11 can be embedded, while in PO9 you would look into the way that you are looking into the complex engineering activities. So we know that when we are addressing the mapping, so any the mapping that would have to address the complex engineering problem, they must also have a WP1, and we go with at least a minimum of 2 of WP characteristics. So you can see that it is being marked up as WP1 plus 2 WPs. So meaning this is the minimum that each of those must address. And of course, when we talk about the PO attainment, we look into how many percent and what are the KPI and what are the sampling that we look into. Okay, so the details as already mentioned in here, so this is another mapping that you will see that we will try to look into some of those WKs that you will be addressing, directly addressing the 17 SDGs and how it is going to impact the PO attainment. So similarly, when you look into the complex engineering problem characteristic, WP2 will also be impacting the 17 SDG. Whereas when you talk about the complex engineering activities, you will see that it is part in the communication, which is PO9, and plus we have the attitude and ethics, which is part as a knowledge profile to our PO number 7 and PO number 8. Right? So basically this is another way of looking at that, and the way that we have tried to address. So previously we will see that we have PO2, PO3 and also PO6, where previously it was PO7, PO6, and PO3. Another way of looking at it, the way that I've already passed it on to ease some of my trainees who receive this particular documents, so that they will be able to easily highlight which are the POs or the graduate attributes, and also the knowledge profile and the complex problem characteristic that will be directly addressing the sustainable development issues. So of course, when you look into the constructive alignment, you'll be able to look it under the website, and I've already plugged that in as part of the slide for reference. So looking on how we can move forward, so I've come up with this particular flow chart. So if you go to pick a course in any of your curriculum, so then you will map to your POs. So whether that POs will address PO1 to PO6, that means you are addressing the complex engineering problem. So when we are addressing complex engineering problem, mind you, PO1 to PO2 will be addressing between WK1 to WK4. So for WP1, it will be either WK3, WK4 and onwards. So when we are addressing PO number 3, which is on the design, then you will go with WK5. So WK5 is already being addressed as it must mention the sustainable development goals. And in PO4, we know that it has to address the WP, and PO5 will also have to address WP, but these WK8, WK2 and WK6 can be impacting our POs implicitly rather than explicitly as in WK5 and WK7, right? So on, we go to PO6, where PO6 is also one of the POs that is directly impacting our sustainable development goals, and therefore, when you are looking at the way that we are doing our mapping to our WP1, and you must look into the WP2 that you're looking at, and if you're using WP2 as part and parcel of the mapping to your POs, then WP2 will have a direct impact with your sustainable development goal. So therefore, it must be properly evidenced in your TLA, in your teaching, learning and assessment, so that it is easy for the evaluation panel to actually look for all of these evidences. So similarly, if you look into your mapping to PO7, PO8, PO10 and PO11, so therefore we are not addressing any complex or problem solving, but then again we have the WK9 addressed to it and also WK8. And for PO number 9, so that would just be addressing the complex engineering activities attributes. This is another way of doing our mapping. So this definitely has eased up many of the IHLs, especially the program manager, when we are trying to review their curriculum, so that they will be able to look into what are the details of their mapping in terms of their courses to their PO, plus to include the mapping to their WPs and also their EAs and also their WK. Right? So in Malaysia, we usually go with accumulating model or dominating model or culminating model. So what I'm going to show to you today is on the culminating model, because in a culminating model, you don't need that many courses. So usually between 3 to 5. So in here, I am giving an example for final year project. Final project is a compulsory course in Malaysia. And then we have integrated design project, also a compulsory course in Malaysia. And then industrial training, again, a compulsory course in Malaysia that will run for about 8 weeks. And then we have engineer in society or engineering management and finance. So most of the universities will be taking up FYP, IDP, IT, EIS and EMF. But some may actually come up with some other different courses for engineering management and finance, because some would go with engineering economy, some may actually divide this into some other courses, which will also address the engineering management and finance. But we do have engineer in society in all of our programs for WA in Malaysia. So these are examples of the POs that is being mapped. Alright, so a final year project is normally being conducted over a period of 1 year. The IDP may be in a period of between 1 year or sometimes just a 1 semester, but with a heavy credit hours. IT would normally be done during the inter-semester break, and it will take about 8 weeks. ERS is normally being taught in the final semester. Similarly, EMF can be taught normally in the 3rd year or probably in the late of 3rd year, but usually in the 1st semester of the 4th year. So I think I am running out of time, but I will just briefly go through how we go about with constructive alignment. When we look into constructive alignment, we look into the instruction, which is the teaching. So these are the ways of teachings that we can actually accommodate when we are looking into the final year project. So for this, I'm giving an example that the final year project is having a 6 credit hours, and we have the intended outcomes looking at different POs, and usually we have so many of them. And of course, in all of these POs, they will easily be able to address the 17 SDGs. And we have the assessment, and assessment may come together with the consultation with the industry, the report, and we have the final year presentation or viva. And we sometimes some of the universities would allow students to go for research competition and also research paper. So all in all, as a panel of evaluators, you need to look whether these are properly moderated, and you need for the SDGs and whether they are fulfilling CPC. For Malaysia, we have CPC. CPC is condition for passing courses. So this is to look into the breadth and the depth of the pedagogies and the taxonomy level, and also the difficulty level together with the complexity of the problems. So you will see that in the next slide, I am looking at about the same, the format that I'm putting up is the same, except for you will see that there are difference in terms of the assessment, where we have industry talks and consultation when you talk about integrated design project. So they have also design competition. And for the assessment, for the teaching, for the instruction, it may also come in terms of simulation and laboratory work. Right? So the next one will be on industrial training. So industrial training would definitely go with field or site experience, or probably if you are a mechanical, you may go into the factory. For chemical, they may go into oil and gas field. So of course, the assessment may come in the form of logbook. It may come also in the form of employer feedback and also presentation. I tend to agree with Dr. Rao and the other speakers because when we are dealing with SDGs, the way forward is to deal with our assessment will be more of a continuous assessment, and it will be in terms of research report. So for EIS, we have PBL, we also have the corporate social and community services. They also can do in the term of a case study and blended learning as the instruction. And for assessment, we have industry talks, engagements, consultation with society, report and assignments, and normally they will do presentation and reflection. But there will not be too many POs that is mapped to engineers in society, which is now known as engineers at the world. So for engineering, management and finance, or it can be project management, or it can be also construction management. So again, we have the PBL work in terms of financial analysis. We will look into case study, simulation, and sometimes we do employ blended and e-learning. Again, all of these activities will have a big relationship with the 17 SDGs. For the assessment, we will have the industry visit, the engagements, consultations, report, assignment, and also, again, the presentation. So these are the examples that I could show in terms of the constructive alignment that we park in the culminating courses that we chose in order for us to ensure that the PO are attained upon graduation. So these are the way that we expect the evidences to be in the report for final year project. So probably when they are writing their objective, they must try to address certain SDGs that they think that this particular research is going to impact that particular SDG. And in the literature review, they must also relate it to the SDGs that they think that they are going to address, and also in conclusion, they must relate the attainment and the recommendation. They can also propose how they can attain the SDG that looking forward. So this will be a very good evidence for us to actually, when we are trying to look into through the document, then this will ease up the panel of evaluators when they are doing their accreditation process. So similarly, that I will be put in my design, that is the integrated design project, and then my industrial training, and then EIS, and also in the EMF. So all in all, in conclusion, I will put up this particular main slide where I've already identified which model that you're going to use, so that you'll be able to address all the POs from PO1 to PO11, and in Malaysia we call it as PO trace. So for them to come up with all the evidences of how many courses is actually contributing to PO1, which assessment tools is actually contributing to PO1, and then how are they addressing all the WK, the WP, and also EA, and how are they looking into the 17 SDGs explicitly, implicitly, directly, and indirectly. So we expect under QMS there are moderation and there are checks being done. So for all of this, we definitely expect a true attainment of their program outcome. So then that would conclude the activity of the evaluation panel to ensure that all of the POs are attained, and for a 4-year duration of their study, then we were actually getting the true attainment, which is directly impacted by the 17 SDGs. So with that, I conclude. So you can actually go on to check on our website if you would like to compare on how we have actually revised our standard, which has been released yesterday. So thank you very much. I hope I do not run over time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.